Hi, my name is Maya, and I'm an environmental science student at Half Moon Bay High School. I'm interested in learning about the environment because I spend a lot of time at the beach, and I think it's really important that everyone learns how we as humans impact the environment around us.
Hello, my name is Natalie and I'm an environmental science student at Half Moon Bay High School. I am interested in studying environmental science because from a young age my mom taught me about the importance of protecting our environment, and it has become something I am passionate about.
Hi, I'm Shaywa Costa and I'm a junior here at Half Moon Bay High School taking AP Environmental Science. So I've always loved being in nature, exploring all of its wonders, but I'm upset by the lack of care humans have displayed for our planet. Trash often clutters natural trails, and plastic fills beautiful lakes and oceans. I'm taking environmental science to learn the reasons behind saving the environment, as well as how we have gotten to the place we are today. I think it's really cool that everything in nature is connected, whether it's through food webs or super complex systems, especially nowadays when there's a lot of talk about climate change and how humanity is destroying the environment. I think it's interesting and important to find out why and how these changes are occurring. The ultimate goal is to learn what we can do to alter our bad habits, being mindful of the world around that provides us with food, water, shelter, extraordinary landscapes, beautiful forests, and a vast variety of resources. Today, I'm at the Bluffs in Moss Beach, a place full of life, both plants and animals. Miss Dickey, the presenter, will be teaching you all today about thinking like a scientist using nearby places like our own backyards.
Hello, my name is Kate Dickey and I'm the Junior Land Stewards Program Manager at the Coastside Land Trust. And today we would like to invite you to the beginning of the Junior Land Stewards Virtual Environmental Science Program. Over the next few months, we're going to give you an opportunity to learn all about your local ecosystem and some of the birds and plants and soil and mammals and invertebrates that live here, and the grasslands or the chaparral, tide pools, or the evergreen forests. And our hope is that this is going to give you an opportunity to learn and think and explore why this is such a unique climate and a unique environment in which we live, and why it is so important and worthy of preserving. Along the way, you're going to learn from some of the top environmentalists in their fields, and also from the Half Moon Bay High School environmental science students who are really excited to work with you and to be a part of your virtual journey. You'll also have an opportunity to try your own hand at some hands-on activities, and as with anything, these activities will be only as rich and cool and educational as the amount of energy that you put into them and to really thinking about them. When we're traveling in nature or studying, it's important for us to develop a practice of observation. And this comes in taking time to slow down and to observe and to think about what we are seeing and hearing and smelling and feeling when we're out in the outdoors. It also incorporates using specific practices, and today we're going to model for you a strategy of scientific observation in which we're going to ask you to notice, to wonder, and to draw connections to what you're seeing. So what I'm going to do today, and you can practice this too, is I'm going to find some type of object out in the natural world. And this could be, you could pick up a blade of grass, or you could pick up a rock or some kind of a cone, but in this case I'm going to use a feather. And I'm going to start off by making some observations of things that I notice about this feather. And as I'm looking at this, I'm using my senses to explore this. So I'm feeling what it feels like. I'm looking, I'm using sight. Might even be listening to the sounds of animals that this might be coming from, and you may hear this in the video a little bit. Probably not going to taste. I wouldn't condone tasting a lot of the things that you're going to be exploring. But I'm going to be making some observations. So observations are something that you're noticing in the moment. So it isn't an observation. To say, I notice that this is a feather is not an observation. It's something that I already know. And if I were to say, this feather is gross or this feather is awesome, those are opinions, those aren't observations. So I'll stick with maybe the color. I might notice the color or the shape or the textures or just the way that this looks like it's kind of been a little bit beaten up here. Just causes me to ask some questions as well. And if you're stuck kind of making observations, it might help to flip it over, look at it from a different angle, or try a different sense. And then maybe to look a little closer. If you have a hand lens, that's really helpful as well. The next step is to ask I wonder questions. And I wonder questions are just things that you wonder. For example, when I picked this up, it does look a little scuffled up on the side, and I wonder, is that from the ground? Or was that from something that happened with the bird? Just sort of the movement of the feathers on its body. I'm curious how this feather fell to the ground, where it is. And I'm curious about how long it's been on the ground and what the bird was like that it came from, how long it was on the bird. So those are I wonder questions. And then the third thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw connections to it. And the connections, when a scientific observer, those types of connections can be anything. They can be connections to something that this reminds me of. So maybe this reminds me of something else that's this shape. Or perhaps it reminds me of a memory that I have of sticking in a sandcastle, feather in a sandcastle when I was younger, or the other day. It can be any kind of connection that you want to draw to it that this reminds you of. So those 3 steps, the first step is things that you notice, I notice. The second step is to ask questions, I wonder questions. And the third step is to draw connections and to say, this reminds me of. So I hope that helps you when you're out and about to think of those 3 things when you're observing, and to hone in on the skills that will help you to really dial into the environment and the things that you're seeing as you're walking around. Today I'd like to introduce you to John Muir Laws, who is an educator and a naturalist and an artist. And he may have written some of the guidebooks that you may be very familiar with. And he has dedicated his work to connecting people with nature through art and science. And he's going to share with you today how he explores nature using scientific journaling and his own senses, and how he draws his own connections to the natural world around him and embraces this incredible place where we live.
Hi there, I'm John Muir Laws. I'm a scientist and an explorer. And today, I'm having an adventure here in the woods at Wavecrest Open Space Preserve. It's along the San Mateo coast. And it's a wonderful place to try to find animals and look for the clues that they leave behind. This is a forest of cypress trees, and they were planted here a long time ago by people who wanted to make a windbreak to protect some of the fields nearby. But in addition to being a windbreak, it became the habitat, the home for owls. And the owls come to these trees and they sleep during the day. So right now, they're somewhere up in these trees above me, watching down, who are these people down below them. And at night, they're going to drift out into the fields on silent wings, catch mice and rodents out there, and back up into these trees before dawn, and sit there digesting all day long. And as they do that, their bodies take all the fur and the bones from the stuff that they've been eating at night, and it concentrates that into a little ball, and they spit these out. So the ground around me here is just covered with these little gray fur balls. These have been spit out by the owls, and you break it open, and what is inside are skulls and bones of all the animals that the owls have been eating. So if you were just to walk through a place like this, it'd be easy to overlook these sorts of subtleties and these sorts of wonders. But if you train yourself to look deeply and to become a rigorous observer, Discoveries like this, mysteries like this, will present themselves to you all over the place. The more that you pay attention to a place, the more you connect with a place. And the more you connect with a place, that's what helps us sort of fall in love with the trees, with the birds, with the animals, and motivates us to protect it. And you can learn to observe like this. You can learn how to see with the eyes of a naturalist and a scientist, and how to develop the heart of a steward to motivate you to protect these open spaces. Nice little owl pellet. So I was walking around underneath these trees trying to find what we call the owl pellets. Again, those are the mouse kits, and found some beautiful ones right in this area. And as I did, all of a sudden, I heard some movement above me. I looked up just as a barn owl swooped out and went out into those trees beyond. And then I looked closer, and still on the branch up there, right up in this tree above me, there was a second barn owl. So there were two barn owls sitting right next to each other. And I'm going to try to make a sketch of this from memory, before all the details leave my head. So when you're drawing in nature and trying to make a sketch like this, the picture doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to do your best to help you remember any details of what you saw. Right now, those black eyes, sort of a V down to the little hard beak, and an overall very pale bird with a little bit of kind of, I'd say sort of a tawny yellow-brown on its back. So I'm going to make a quick sketch of that, and then I'm going to do a little bit of an exploration here of these owl pellets that they left behind. So what I did is I first just made a kind of a quick memory drawing of the little barn owl that I saw up in the branches, and that is a little sketch like that is sufficient to really help bring back details of what I saw. And also knowing that I'll be trying to make a sketch of something when I'm looking at something really forces me to look with greater intensity while it's right there. So I just sort of remember the bird overall was a little bit of brown, warm brown on its back, fairly light colored on its chest. And then there are these owl pellets around, and so I took one of those, and the owl pellets were really kind of gray. It's interesting. I wonder why they're always gray. Sure, because there's gray fur, but think of the mice as being brown. I wonder why they're not more brownish colored. So this is a large pellet I took apart. So I took that apart, And there were 4 different skulls inside of it. And so here's 1, 2, 3, 4 skulls. Makes me really wonder does that represent one night's feeding, or are they actually throwing up more than one pellet in 24 hours? It'd be neat to watch that and find out. And then you could figure out a guess of how many rodents they're eating a night. So this one definitely had 1, 2, 3, 4 mice. And if they're making more than one pellet a day, then it would be more than that. So I'm going to add just a few other notes onto that. This is life size, a life-size pellet, and so I've got 4 vole skulls and 2 owls. What I intentionally do when I'm taking notes like this is I will use words, and I'll use pictures, and I'll count things, and I'll measure things. So words, pictures, numbers, and I get all of those together on the page. Each one of those strategies helps me notice and record things in a slightly different way. And that's a very useful strategy. So that's an example of just kind of one quick journal page from one of the adventures that you can have here along the San Mateo coast. If you train yourself to keep notes of your observations and discoveries, you'll become a better nature detective. And you're going to discover that your ability to find clues just improves and improves and improves. The more you work at it, the better and better it's going to get. Until you can walk out in a place like this and all the little mysteries will come up and present themselves to you. It's really fun to explore nature in that way.
Thank you, John Muir Laws, for a peek into how you use scientific journaling to help you to pay closer attention and to cultivate and document your own curiosity. And to those of you who are beginning this virtual journey with us, we are excited to welcome you along to explore your own favorite nature spots and local open spaces and even your own backyard. And we hope you enjoy and learn a lot in these next few months as we work together to explore this place where you live.
Thank you, Miss Dickey. So today we are going to be exploring our own backyard or nature spots. There are plenty of places around Half Moon Bay to go scavenging. Anywhere with grass, bushes, and maybe some trees would work perfectly. You'll need to get yourself a pencil like I have here, a paper, and a clipboard or a hard surface to write on. I just have this little sketchbook with a hard surface that I can write on. Today we're going to be finding something brown and abiotic, something biotic that was once part of something bigger, a seed or something carrying a seed, something you wonder about, evidence of a human, and 2 different shaped leaves. So firstly, I'm looking for something brown and abiotic. I'm already seeing that there's something abiotic and brown right beneath my feet. So soil or dirt is abiotic for the most part. There can be little living bugs or living organisms, plants in the soil, but for the most part it is abiotic. And I'm trying to draw the soil, which is a brown and abiotic thing, and I'm just drawing the different textures using the best of my art abilities. It doesn't have to be perfect. So now one more example that I'm looking for is 2 different shaped leaves, bunch of leaves. I think it's a blackberry bush, and it has leaves with some purple around it. I don't think this is poison oak because it has those spikes which represent it being a blackberry bush. Here I just sketched out a picture of my first leaf. And here I found more leaves. There's some on the ground too. They have a totally different color. They have more of a light green with yellow and a totally different shape. Two contrasting leaves drawn right next to each other. This one on the right is this leaf. So I picked up this second leaf that I will be drawing, and I already started my sketch, but I just wanted to show how I kind of did the shading of this darker area around the sides with the green, as well as the lighter yellow insides, and showed just the little veins up the leaf. And I did that just by looking at the leaf and then coming back to my paper and starting to draw and just adding to that until I was happy with my finished product. And now you can see the two very contrasting leaves, both found in the same environment. I'm adding color to my drawings to make them more realistic. You can add details like the yellow that was inside of this leaf, and then I'm going in with purple on the outside of this leaf. So here you can see the soil that I drew. I added purple and red on the outside, and I made the whole thing green, added the texture on the side of the leaf, and then showed here how it was more of a smooth texture on the outside and the yellow in the middle with the green on the outside. So now it's your guys' turn to give it a try. Exploring nature spots is always a blast. It's super cool to see how much goes on right in front of our eyes, and I wish you guys the best of luck with your guys' activity.